Reverend Don Lewis, coming to you from the beautiful metaverse, and more specifically beautiful Danville, Illinois, homeland of the Correllian tradition. And this is Midday with Reverend Don. And as you know, if you follow Midday with Reverend Don, you can type your questions or comments on whatever platform you're watching on. They'll appear here in our chat room and we can talk with you directly. And today, my guest is Krys Copeland from Correllian Publishing. Welcome, Krys.
Thanks, Rev Don. It's great to be here again, and looking forward to our chat this evening. Well, this evening for me, midday for everyone
Yes.
stateside.
And you are coming to us from the beautiful Netherlands.
Yes, and it's a beautiful day today. It's one of the first spring days that we've had.
Oh, good. So. We've been having a bit of an early spring here. It's been going back and forth. I think today it's in the 40s, but that's perfectly good for this time of year. It's in the 50s now. It's warmed up in the last couple of hours.
Yeah, it was quite warm today.
Yeah. So a lovely day.
Yeah.
It's a good day for a walk.
Absolutely. Yeah, I was able to get out with my dog earlier today and had a nice walk around the canal in the neighborhood here.
Yeah. I didn't know you had a dog.
Yes, her name is Messy.
Cool.
She's part Chihuahua and part Jack Russell, and I know that sounds like a terrible combination, but she's got the best characteristics from both breeds. So
that's good. Yeah. I've always understood that Chihuahuas are very sweet dogs, but I've never eaten a whole one, so I don't know for sure.
Well, Messy likes a lot of attention, and she loves people but hates other dogs for some reason. She's kind of mean to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, some dogs are very oriented on their people and nothing else, and that's perfectly normal.
Yeah, and she's my little. She follows me around all day long. So.
That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool. The pets in this house are a lizard and a turtle, but there were two dogs, but they have gone into spirit. But the lizard and the turtle remain.
That's good. That's good.
And I never knew. Well, it's a bearded dragon, is what it is. Its name is Phoenix, and I never knew that a lizard could be cuddly.
Oh,
but it loves to cuddle with its mama, Sharia.
That's so nice.
Sleeps with her many nights. She carries it around, and it literally cuddles. It's something I didn't really think that lizards did. So I'm kind of happy to know that.
Yeah, that's good to know.
And hello to Reverend Mary in the chat room.
Hi, Reverend Mary. Good to see you. Yeah, that's actually, I'm glad Reverend Mary jumped on here because that's one of the announcements I wanted to make for Correllian Publishing. We are working on expanding. Well, we currently have you listed as a psychic reader on Correllian Publishing. I'm hoping within the next day or two, we'll also have Reverend Mary on there and one other person as well. So stay tuned for that, and then and make sure to check back on the website correllianpublishing.com in the next few days to see those changes.
Wonderful.
Yeah. I'm really excited to actually show what the psychic readings look like on the website, what you'll actually get from it. So I'll share my screen here with everybody and show you Reverend Don's listing here. So with Reverend Don, you can order a 10-minute reading, a 30-minute reading that goes a little bit deeper, or the full journey, the 60-minute psychic reading, which is a comprehensive insight into your life's path. You can go through your spiritual path, your relationships, your career, your future, and get all of those insights that you're looking for on your destiny and on the decisions that you need to make today. And also, you'll be able to book through the website just by clicking on the one that you want. Let's say you want the 30-minute reading. You can go right there. You'll see it listed in euros on mine, but I believe it's $49.99 in USD. And you'll see the full service details. You'll note that, Reverend Don, you have a lot of different divination methods for people to choose from.
Oh, yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about more? I know we have a few of them listed on here, but can you go into some more depth about that?
Well, most of what I do for people is either tarot or clairvoyance. Tarot is obvious. Clairvoyance can take a number of forms. It can be a straight clairvoyant reading, what's sometimes called a straight psychic reading, or it can be about a specific subject, such as past lives, or working with spirit guides, or even departed loved ones.
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
things I used to do, well, still do, in particularly certain times of year, were seances that probably more later in the year we'll also be offering,
Yeah, I'm
and
looking
that's
forward to
quite
that.
interesting.
Yeah. I see we have someone else in the chat, but I can't quite read their
Oh,
name.
yeah, we want to say hello to Bimby in the chat, and
Hi,
Christine
Bimby.
and Nikki.
Hi, Christine. Hi, Nikki. Good to see you all.
And Nikki says, I also have chihuahuas and two cats. And
Oh,
of course, I was
nice.
only joking about eating the chihuahua.
For legal purposes, we have to say this. Yeah.
Well, that is what they were bred for, but I don't think anyone has eaten them for a very long time.
Yeah, let's hope not.
Uh,
I'm thinking of Messi. I'm like, oh no, she's too cute. Don't do
Well,
that.
there's not much meat on them.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. She is very scrawny.
But it does put that Taco Bell Chihuahua in a totally different perspective when you know the history of the breed.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. So I'm very curious as to what are some of the things that you've had people ask you over the years
Oh,
about psychic readings, and that kind of stick out in your head as, oh, these were like really profound moments, or really meaningful readings for people.
um, I think the thing well, part of the problem is you don't necessarily remember what you read in a reading. Um, when you're doing particularly a clairvoyant reading, you're in a trance, usually a light trance, and you don't necessarily bring it back with you. So I don't always remember that much of readings, but sometimes I do. And some of the things that I have remembered, I think the things that have been most memorable to me have been when people got confirmation that I did not recognize. And we want to say hello to Steve in the chat room.
Hi, Steve.
And Mary says, I highly recommend Reverend Don seances. But if I describe someone, they say, oh, I know who that is from the description. Or one that I often talk about 30 odd years ago, or very early in my psychic career, I was reading for a woman. And I remember it because it was so remarkable to me that I thought about it immediately after the reading, which is how I remember things, if I remember them at all. But I had seen for her a couple of symbols that made no sense to me. But I told her because, I learned early, you have to say what you get. And the symbols included a microphone of the rather large type that was in use back in the 1980s. And hello to Janet in the chat room.
Hi, Janet.
And babies just kind of raining down. And I thought from that way, maybe she's a children's entertainer. I don't know. But I told her the symbols, told her my supposition. After the reading, and I guess this is the reason I remember, she brought it up to me and said, well, I didn't want to say anything at the time, but I'm an obstetrics nurse, and I do ultrasound. And at the time, the ultrasound wand looked like an entertainer's microphone.
Oh,
That kind of microphone
what
isn't
is
so
this?
common now, but it was a pretty obvious mistake, and that caught my attention as something I didn't recognize, but she did. Another time, I had a lady who was looking for a specific message from her departed father, um, and that always is like the most terrifying kind of reading to do, because one, all you can do is trust that it will come through. And I didn't get anything that particularly seemed to be it, but I did start out with this very stereotypical image. And I was almost embarrassed to say it. I almost didn't say it, but again, I learned to say what I got. And this is a good example of why. It was just a teddy bear and the message, I love you.
Oh,
And how Hallmark can you be? Well, after the reading, it turned out that was the message.
Mm.
It was a teddy bear, which is not something I necessarily normally get in a reading. So things like that are the things that catch my attention, because I would have not really read anything into it, and might almost didn't say it because it didn't have an immediate meaning to me, but it did have a meaning to the person. And hello to Charles in the chat room. It's good to see you, Charles.
Hi, Reverend Charles. Good to see you.
I've had other situations like that. I don't generally feel like I should be talking too much about people's readings, though. But 30 years ago, I think I can mention. One of the other things that really caught my attention, though, 10 years ago, more than that, close to 15 years ago, we were doing the World of Witches Museum in Salem, and one year we did a special offering free 5-minute readings as a sample of the readings that we did. And hello to George in the chat room. It's good to see you, George.
Hi, George.
And George says, hello, Don. I hope you're doing well. I am, and I hope you're doing well too. I've known George since I was 6 years old.
Oh, wow. Old friends.
George McGilvery of McGilvery's Fine Photography.
Oh, nice.
But we had people get very upset about this, and on the idea that you can't do anything in a 5-minute reading. What I actually found is that people were getting so much in the 5-minute reading, they didn't feel that they needed the full reading, because their questions were being answered in the sample reading. But this is something I've found over the years, that Spirit will very often answer people's questions before they ever ask them. And so when I do a reading, I usually do not start by asking people what they want to know. I start with whatever comes, and then I'll ask them, is there something you would like to ask? Is there something you want to know? And it's not uncommon. I mean, the last in-person reading I did, basically said, as many have, no, the questions have already been answered. And hello to CDC in the chat room, who asks about seance booking remotely. Is it effective? In my experience, yes. I find that you can read. When I do remote seances, it's usually through something like Zoom, through a format something like this, where you're doing it through video. And I found that very effective. And Mary earlier was recommending the seances. She's been in several of those broadcast seances where we're not in the same room, but the psychic connection is just as strong. And that's true for readings also. And I can remember early in the days of the internet, because I've been here that long, that there was some concern about, will you be able to have a connection? But people had been doing remote readings for a very long time. Before the internet, we did them. People would write sometimes to ask for a reading, and you would do it remotely for them. So if that works, of course, this would work too. If you can read for a person over the phone, you can read for a person through the internet. So yeah, I found them very effective. And Bimby says, Spirit knows no distance, and that's been my experience.
Very true.
Distance is not an issue in psychic matters and spiritual matters in general.
And I'd be curious if anyone has, an interest in, seeing what a sample reading would look like in the chat. Just let us know, and maybe Reverend Don can do a very quick reading for you and see
I can
what
do
Spirit
that
is
today.
speaking. Yeah,
I can do that today because we're talking about it today. I don't normally do it during this broadcast, but today I will do it. I often go on Tarot Thursday on Divination TV, usually once a month, where we do that sort of mini reading. And if anyone would be interested in having that, say something in the chat room. Otherwise, I don't know. I could do one for you.
All right, that works.
Why don't we do that anyway?
Okay, sounds good.
And just a general reading for Krys. And you can't see it, but I am shuffling the cards, but the camera's a little too close to reveal it. And both George and Christine have asked for a sample as well. We can do that.
Absolutely.
So for the sample, we'll be drawing 3 cards. As if I could actually stop at 3 cards, but we'll see what happens. I frequently annoy Mary by the fact that I cannot just stop at 3 cards. So for you, and this would be the immediate future, the next few weeks, maybe a month. The first card is the High Priestess, which says, pay attention to your spiritual guidance. Make sure that you keep your spiritual connection strong and listen to what it has to tell you. You have the Six of Pentacles, which is receiving help or assistance either from a person or from the universe itself. And the Ace of Lamps, which again is spiritual influence, and it's saying to expect to have a major spiritual focus during this time, which I'm sure you have lots of other things you'll be doing too.
Well, more and more, I feel that Correllian Publishing is my spiritual focus. It's really helped me, by continuing to read through our elder wisdom over the last 6 or 7 weeks that I've been working with Correllian Publishing directly. It has really opened my eyes to a lot of ways that I can continue adding spiritual connection within my own life, union with the universe in my own life. And yeah, I'm finding that instead of having this as a job, I'm serving my community. And that's something far more profound than just a job.
It can be rewarding.
Yeah, I find that reading quite accurate. I'm curious to see what everyone else gets for their reading.
Yeah, let me draw 3 cards for George. And Mary says in the chat room that I don't annoy her with it, I simply amuse her with it. And yeah, I realize that. But when I say annoy, it's a more amusing statement. And 3 cards for George. And this again would be referring to the more or less immediate future. First card is the Seven of Lamps. The Seven of Lamps is purification. So for George, I would say this next few weeks, you're going to be getting rid of dead weight, getting rid of things that might be holding you back, especially in an emotional or spiritual sense, and letting go of limitations. It's followed by the mind, and that has to do with the ability to think, to analyze, to look at things. So when we talk about that releasing of dead weight, it will probably have to do with your understanding of certain things. And we have the Queen of Swords, which is past experience. So it may be that you may find yourself during this period coming to a new understanding of certain things that have already happened. But that new understanding will release whatever you're holding from it. So it's a purification that also is dealing with things from the past. So that's what I would see for a mini reading for George.
Curious to see what George's thoughts are on it.
And then we have Christine. I have to take a moment to clear the cards. And then, no, they're very active for Christine. So, speak to us generally about Christine. And again, this will be for the immediate future.
George says, thank you for that reading.
Ooh. So for Christine, again, we're talking about the next few weeks. The first card is Temperance. Temperance is making new situations out of old situations. So it's saying that this period isn't going to see old situations go away, but rather be transformed, or in the process of being transformed. It's followed by the Seven of Coins, Seven of Pentacles, which is kind of saying you're still thinking about how to do that, but it's where your focus is going to be. You're looking at your future, you're looking for how you want to go forward. And again, in terms of transmuting your situations, it's followed by the King of Lamps, which is meditation. And it's saying the answer to this you will receive through meditation, through looking within, rather than looking without. So as you're working on transforming those aspects in your life, don't be looking around yourself for the answer, but be looking inside yourself for the answer. I'm going to draw one more for Christine.
And CDC would also like a reading after this.
And I've drawn the King of Wands, which says that you're going to be very passionate about this situation. And, like I said, the answer is within. So make sure that that you pay attention to your spiritual guidance, your psychic sense, your own feelings, and make sure you're tuning into those. And it's a time of transformation for you. And then we wanted to do one for CDC.
Well, Janet asked first, so Janet will be
Janet.
in line next, and then CDC. So.
Okay.
And just a quick comment here from George. He says, I can see where this could be very appropriate. So
wonderful. And Steve in the chat room says, I often shuffle my cards for the person reading me. If I were reading you in person, that's what we would be doing. But obviously, not in this format. But I feel like we get the energy anyway. So, Janet. And I always comment that, I really am shuffling. You can't tell it, but our camera just doesn't show that. But you see, they're here. I guess I could do this, but it's kind of annoying. And if I move, well, actually, I can't move farther back from the camera at this moment.
Janet says she can hear you shuffle, so.
Good.
It's ASMR tonight.
I'm often amazed by how well the sound baffling on these broadcasts now works. Because there are definitely times that I can hear things that people do not hear in the broadcast. So for Janet, the first thing is the Princess of Pentacles. Princess of Pentacles says that everything that's needed for the situation is there, but you may still be holding back for some reason. So you may want to ask yourself why you're holding back from doing what you want to do when you're in fact capable of doing it. And of course, when you look at that, then your question is, do you really want to hold back from it? And the answer might be yes, but it might also be no. So take a good look at your motivations, but what you're going to find is you're ready to move forward with what you want to do, but you just aren't. With that, we have the King of Lamps, who showed up in a previous reading, meditation. And in order to understand why you're holding back, you have to look inside. You have to look in your own heart and look in your shadow, so to speak. And that will give you your answer. And it's followed by the Four of Wands, which is success and celebration. So it's saying that when you find that answer and you move forward, which it looks like you would do within a relatively short period of time, you'll find great success. There is no real reason to hold back unless it's your personal choice. And you always have that personal choice, but if you move forward, it will be successful. And then who do we have next?
CDC is next, and Christine says, "Thank you so much. I've been feeling like I'm on the brink of something, but I don't know what. I will definitely meditate for the answer." Meditation is
Wonderful.
always great, so you can get some great guidance that way.
And again, if you would like a longer reading, you can find them at CorrellianPublishing.com.
Yeah. And I will type that into the chat for us tonight, too.
Thank you.
If anyone wants to take a look.
I have to say, well, let me finish shuffling and then I'll say it. One of the things I've noticed is how much my personal attitude toward reading has changed over the years. Because when I started, I regarded it as a far more complex operation, as so many people do. And with tarot, for example, I did the big long spreads and so forth. And I found that the longer I go, the simpler it is. And the simpler it is, the better it is. But, I often talk about how when it comes to spiritual matters in general, I am not the oogie boogie spiritual person. And that's true here, too. I am the, this is the perfectly normal thing you do at the kitchen table attitude. And so for CDC, our first card is the Ace of Cups. And you can notice that part of the card is falling out of the image because of our green screen, but what are we going to do? That part obviously is green. But the Ace of Cups is happiness. It is just plain simple happiness. So in this next few weeks, I would think that you should be in a very positive, happy situation. It's followed by the Six of Coins, which also showed up in a previous reading, which is getting help from a person or even from the universe. So you'll be in a happy situation and a fortunate situation in that things will be helping you to move forward. It's followed by the Seven of Cups. Seven of Cups says you may be dealing with some illusion or misunderstanding or desire for more than you have. So take a good, accurate look at the things around you while you're in this good situation, and you'll probably find they're better than you think they are. And particularly because the last card, which came out of its own, is magic. And magic is just what it sounds like. It says that you have the ability in your immediate future to do whatever you want to do, to work your will in the world. And so be sure of what you want. Be sure of the situation you're in. Make sure you're not dealing with illusions, particularly about your own desires. But within that context, whatever you want can be yours. It's a very fortunate time for you.
Nice.
And then I think we had one more.
Well, we do, but I wanted to I have one more announcement to make for the last couple of minutes. So we may need to get Bimby's next time.
Okay.
Or if Bimby.
Oh, well, that's true. We are pretty much at the end of our half hour.
Yeah. But I wanted to share with everyone something we're doing as part of a children's series on the Wheel of the Year with Sarah Hartsong, who works with Taurus and Erosia Sanctuary. And I will share with you a little bit from the manuscript that we're working on. This should be ready by Ostara, and this one is for Beltane. We'll continue that same pattern of releasing the one for the next Sabbath on the previous Sabbath. And so this will be a series for children. The first part of the series is actually a short story about children in the modern day going to a Beltane celebration. The second part of the book is the myth of Rhiannon, retold for a modern audience. And the third part is a guide for parents and children on understanding gender identity and sexuality, a huge part of Beltane. And then the final section of the book is a children's Beltane ritual designed for children to not just participate in, but to lead themselves. So this book is made for children 8 to 12 years old to do independently. Younger children would need some more adult assistance, but could definitely do it. And then, of course, children older than that will be able to do it quite independently. But we thought it would be great to have this for pagan children, for Correllian children, for children throughout our spiritual community. And I'm really excited about this series. It's packed full of vocabulary for students to learn, both magical vocabulary as well as mundane vocabulary. And we'll have some additional things in the back, a guide for children to figure out what their current gender identity is, how they're feeling about the types of people that they're attracted to, and to have that conversation with children. And there's conversations on consent and how to ask for and give consent, enthusiastic consent. So all of those are super important conversations and also super difficult conversations for parents. So that's why we're bringing this guide and this book out.
Wonderful. So with that, I see we've come to the end of our half hour. Although Steve says in the chat room, remark to my doing this at the kitchen table with a cup of tea. Sometimes I drink so much tea, there's not enough tea leaves left to read. Trying to watch that. And I completely get that. Today has been a nice, lighthearted program. Yesterday, it's sandwiched between two rather heavy ones. Yesterday, we were talking about pagan power, and the pagan power course is going to start this weekend. But we talked about that yesterday. You can go back and watch that broadcast. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the recent IVF ruling in Alabama and the idea of what is life and when a life starts, and that will be probably a fairly heavy subject. So you never know what you're going to find on this program. But thank you for joining us, Krys.
Glad to be here.
And thank you, everyone. Let us close with our prayer, as we always do. Divine Mother Goddess, Divine Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you for all that you do for us in our lives, and we ask you to continue to be with us as we go forward and to help us to take our future into our own hands, to allow our spiritual guidance to advise us in making our decisions in life, but to remember always that it is our own free will that guides us forward. Beloved Mother Goddess, beloved Father God, beloved ancestors, we thank you, and knowing you are always with us, but from respect, we thank you for your presence, and may you be blessed now and always. And I thank you for your presence, and Krys, I thank you for your presence.
Thank you.
And may you be blessed now and always.
Blessed be everyone.